Hey, 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 no need to put away the bong or the vape machine or the cigarettes. I'm not here to judge you, man. You see, this may surprise you, but it hasn't been all that long ago that I was a teenager myself. Now, I know that's hard for you guys to believe, but it's true. And I understand how you feel. I know sometimes it feels like our parents, they just don't understand. When are they going to realize we're old enough to make our own decisions? Well, if you're trying to make some tough decisions now, one way you can make them is by using the ethical theory known as utilitarianism. Classic utilitarianism says you should do what brings about the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Now, act utilitarianism says in each instance, do the action that brings about the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Is it moral for you to lie? Well, in each case, consider whether the lie is likely to bring about the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Rule utilitarianism says follow rules that generally bring about the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Is it moral for you to lie? Consider whether, as a general practice, lying brings about more good consequences than bad, better consequences than a world without lies. Okay, now I get to do one of my favorite old people things, which is to find out what music you listen to and then say you'll like some of my music. Say you like Lizzo? Oh, well, then you'll love Led Zeppelin too. Let me turn you on to Led Zeppelin too. Say you like Taylor Swift? Well, then you'll love John Stuart Mill and Peter Singer. John Stuart Mill is the famous utilitarian philosopher who wrote the book Utilitarianism in 1861, and he wrote the book On Liberty in 1859. Now, that's a little bit before my time. Mill is a utilitarian because he is the originator of the greatest happiness principle. He believes we should do what brings about the greatest happiness to the greatest number. But guess what? Mill thinks the way to live so as to create the greatest happiness for the greatest number is by following a rule. That's right, he is a rule utilitarian. And that rule is the rule that Mill himself originated in his other book on liberty. And that rule is the harm principle. You may remember from Killing Spree that the harm principle says you and or the government are only justified in interfering with another person's speech or lifestyle if that person is, through that speech or lifestyle, harming someone other than himself or herself. Note, being offended is not being harmed. The second example of a utilitarian we'll look at is Peter Singer. Singer is a 20th and 21st century philosopher. Singer draws utilitarianism to its logical conclusion. If you ought to do what brings the greatest happiness to the greatest number, that means people in affluent, rich countries should sacrifice some luxury items and give the extra money to the least well off in the world. You got a whole lot of love. You got a whole lot of love. Now, let's go back and think about some practices: birth control, abortion, same sex marriage, euthanasia, laws to protect animals. Do these practices bring about the greatest happiness for the greatest number? Or do these practices produce more pain and suffering than happiness?